Om Namo Narayana, Dr. Vasthare, dear sisters and brothers. On behalf of our President, revered Swami Swatma Ramanandaji Maharaj, and officials of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, I extend a warm and loving welcome to tonight's Devotee Wellbeing session. Devotee Wellbeing is a monthly program with Dr. Usha Vasthare that cares for the devotee's mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being based on positive psychological principles. Some housekeeping rules. Sisters and brothers, kindly keep your microphones on mute during the entire presentation. Questions and answers will be conducted at the end of the presentation. Kindly add your questions in the chat box if you wish to do so. And a little bit about Dr. Vasthare. So Dr. Usha Vasthare is a neuroscientist, teacher, writer, and social worker. She's the co-founder of the Yogakshema Rehabilitation and Wellness Center. Dr. Vasthare has facilitated over 1,000 support group meetings at Yogakshema and conducted numerous workshops on mindful training, mindful living, healthy living, overcoming automatic negative thoughts, forgiveness, improving interpersonal relationships, depression, stress management, and various other topics. I respectfully request Dr. Vasthare to present the Devotee Wellbeing session for this evening. Welcome, Dr. Vasthare.
Thank you, Dr. Charlene. Let me try and share the screen. There. Okay. As we all know, this is part of the series of discussions we are having. And especially today's, I've chosen the topic of resilience, and this takes more than one session. So this is going to be a continuation of probably 2 or 3 sessions, and then we'll see how it goes. Just a quick recap. Karma model means it's equivalent to the positive psychology. Anything about positive psychology that you need to know, it comes under this PARMA model. PARMA, as you know already, it's an acronym. P standing for positive emotions, E for engagement, R for relationships, and then figuring out the meaning of life with M, and then to set goals and to achieve, accomplishment is the last part of the model, PARMA model. But we have seen in the last 2 sessions how we have taken this PARMA model and we using both Yogakshema principles and what we have learned from our master, we have changed that to Prema model. Of course, it's not just rearranging the letters in the acronym, even though that is what it is, but that our relationships, we're going to look at how to improve relationships from the angle of resilience. What does that resilience mean, and how can it help in improving the relationships? And the engagement, to be engaged with any activity, to keep in mind how do we evolve through anything that we do? If this is the scientific way of saying, scriptural way of saying is, how do you convert any activity? Any activity means karma, right? Any activity into karma yoga that is evolving through engagement. So the rest of the stuff, positive emotions, meaning and purpose of life and accomplishment, it would be the same, but we'll take a different approach for both the resilience and the evolving through engagement. So how do we evolve as a devotee? Keep this in the back of your mind as we go along. And I'm going to request Charlene to help me when it is 35 minutes or so. Please let me know so I can stop somewhere in the middle, because this is going to be an ongoing thing I would not know. Sometimes I lose track of time. So we will keep enough time for Q&A. So maybe after 35 minutes or so, you can help me so that we can stop.
Okay, I will.
Sure, thank you. So, as I said, we're going to look into resilience, building resilience through relationships. It's a great statement by one of the self-help gurus in USA. His name is Wayne Dyer. He says, everything, whatever our experience in life, is either an opportunity to grow or an obstacle to keep us from growing. This statement we can easily understand through managing stress or building resilience. I'll just touch upon it. We're not going to go into managing stress, but to understand this statement, which is directly related to building up resilience, let's just take that example of managing stress, because we only focus on managing stress. We identify, okay, this is what is happening. I have to learn how, somehow I have to learn to manage stress. Somehow I have to learn to balance both personal life and professional life. Somehow I have to balance with all these team members. That is how the usual our mind works. Along the lines of positive psychology, we're going to look at this from a different perspective. Another flagship statement of Yogakshema. Sorry. Hold on. I'll just get a cup of water. So, along the positive psychology principles, in the line of positive psychology principles, as I was saying, we only focus on managing stress. However, we will understand what this resilience means, and then we will stop even saying, I have to manage this stress from now on. Because this statement is in a different way of looking at resilience itself. You'll see what I mean by that in a second. Our flagship statement that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So even the stress, we're going to stop looking at stress as somehow I have to overcome stress or manage stress. But we're going to change that and then see. But of course, I'm not taking stress as an example. Today's, we're just going to focus on what is resilience, what is not. But I keep referring to this example of managing stress. We can understand this in a different way. And Mother Teresa was asked whether she would participate in an anti-war rally. This is the statement she said. If you hold an anti-war rally, I will not attend. But if you hold a pro-peace rally, invite me. I will be there. What? It means the same thing, right? Anti-war and pro-peace. That's how we just look at it. When we just look at the meaning of this sentence from a language perspective, of course, it's all the same. But if you really go deeper and look at it, it It isn't the same, because anti-war rally, lot of times we're going to focus on war and the ill effects of war and what happens and how we should stop and all of that. Whereas pro-peace rally, we're going to be focusing a lot more on what does that mean to be peaceful. How do we look at the uh, promoting peace all over? So the mindset itself is so different. This is what we will take that example of stress management, and then we will understand based on this statement. So managing stress, again, we're going to be focusing on what is stress, what is happening to us, the symptoms, how is it affecting, rather than when we look into building up resilience, it is going to be from a totally different angle. What does that mean? What is resilience? How do we build up resilience? Are there any different types of resilience? What is the classification of resilience if there are different types? So we're going to look into that from a very different perspective. That's why the statement, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. It truly is a flagship statement. It should be for all our lives, so that if we keep using that statement and keep implementing that statement in our day-to-day lives, things are going to be very, very differently looked at. Just to keep this in the back of our mind, as I said earlier, rather than from stress management, we are going to be moving to building resilience based on positive psychology principles. So what is this? The next half hour, this is how the flow is going to be. What is resilience? And what is not resilience? It's also equally important to know what is not resilience and the different types of resilience. And what is it that's so unique about resilience in current times? Even though we knew about resilience, there is a lot more research that has gone into resilience in the recent times, and especially post-COVID too, during and post-COVID. So we're going to understand what is it that is so unique about, we are focusing so much more on resilience than on preventing or managing stress. So what prevents us to be resilient, and what is the ultimate solution? And then we will go through this in several sessions. Let's look into what is not resilience. And it is much easier to understand what resilience by going through what is not resilience. Being resilient does not mean that one does not have any difficulty or distress. There will be challenges, there will be difficulties, there will be difficult times even leading to distress. That is for sure. It does not mean somebody will not have any difficulty once they learn how to build this resilience. So resilience isn't necessarily a personal trait that only some people possess. It's not like only certain people of certain caliber, certain socio-economic, educational background are more resilient than others. It is probably a personal trait, is what many times people think, except that it is not. And resilience is not about toughing it out or reacting to every setback with a smile. Oh, I have to be resilient, so I will take anything as it comes. It's not just about being stoic and just managing for that time. It is much more than that, much more deeper than that. It's not just using our willpower or using all our energy. Let me get through this. However, it should be a lot more than that, and then we will see what it is in a minute. It's also not about being like a lone ranger. Yes, somehow or other, I'm going to pull this through using my willpower, using this and that. And then that is nothing but that stoic attitude. It is much more than that. And it's not even a state of being. It's not that when you're resilient, it's a state of being, and then you're going to be so easily using the tools to be resilient. That is what it is. No, it is not. Every time when we face challenges, every day we need to remember and say, one thing that will help us, which I will tell you in a second, as soon as I go back to define what is resilience. And then remember just one thing, and that will help us. So to be resilient isn't to go back to being the way one was before. However, most of the times being resilient means this is what we think, to going back the way we were before, which again means, you ask any person, ask any commoner, and then it says, what does that mean to be resilient? And they will give some version of this answer. Oh, you need to bounce back. If there is some adversity or challenge, you bounce back to your previous levels. And they use this word for especially national economy a lot, and of course personal economy too. We want our economy to bounce back, to be resilient, and we want to get back to our jobs, especially during COVID times, when it was this is what people would say. Oh, we want to go back to our jobs, we want to go back to our schools, and we want to go back to our usual routine before this COVID ever happened. In other words, people want the way it was before, except this is not resilience. If that is the case, then what is resilience? Let's look into that. So what is it? Resilience is a set of skills honed through adversity to become stronger than before. The key terms is skills and adversity. Until and unless we go through adverse situations, until and unless we go through challenges, we cannot become resilient. In other words, this adversity, challenge, problems that we face everyday life is a prerequisite to be resilient. When we look at it that way, then every challenge, we can use it as an opportunity to be better than before, to be resilient. So resilience involves our actions, our behaviors, how we think about those challenges and the feelings. And these, anyone can learn these skills, hone their skills, and develop their skills to be resilient. So resilience is about transforming ourselves to a new normal. That new normal, transforming means it's always better than before, to be better than before. So resilience, simply put, refers to positive adaptation to adversity. Such simple definition, which is nothing but positive adaptation to adversity. So before going into types of resilience, let's go just a bit deeper and see. So what is it that is important? As I was saying, the skills that we need to learn and the adversity or the challenges. So what is it that is so important? Until and unless we have challenges in life, we cannot be better than before. Truly speaking, because otherwise we will be in that comfort zone. We will be so comfortable being in the comfort zone. It will be hard for us, or it will take a lot more effort to be learning something new and to be bettering ourselves if we stay inside that comfort zone. When we look at it this way, I think we all would welcome, in a positive way, the challenges. that we go through in life, or more than welcoming, we will start looking at those challenges that we will never ever be able to stop from a very different perspective altogether. That is the key for this resilience. So before I go into types of resilience, do we have any questions based on this definitions of knowing what is resilience and what is not?
No, Ushama, I don't see any questions.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody wants to ask anything whilst raise
you can
your hand.
unmute yourself and then, yeah.
I don't think there's anyone, Ushama. Can continue.
Sure.
Maybe we'll
Then
leave
we
it
can
to
continue. Okay, I'll continue then. So let's look into different types of resilience. As you can see, individual resilience. We have to take care of ourselves at an individual level so we can build up individual resilience. And then, especially during COVID times, we could see that family resilience. As a family, how many families that we know, each one of us, I'm sure, we know how, not just at an individual level, the entire family became so much more resilient in coping up and in overcoming adversities of COVID. And not only just family resilience, community resilience. If you're living in a community, like in a gated community, how the entire community became resilient, helping out each other, coming up with newer regulations and what to be much safer. All of this we can easily understand because this is what all of us faced during COVID times. And organizational resilience. And we ourselves know, at least I can speak about Ramakrishna Matan Mission here as organizational resilience. When our own Swamiji here, revered Swami Swatma Ramananda ji, at that time he was in Joburg, I'm aware of that. So during COVID times, nobody could come to the ashram or kutir, and then nobody could go elsewhere. So what happened? That is when lot of Zoom sessions, everybody learned how to start with this, how to edit, how to post it on YouTube. And even Swamiji learned how to speak staring at a computer screen, just like many of us. And then the entire Ramakrishna Center in Joburg, it developed so much resilience at the organization level. That is where we could see there were so many scriptural lessons happened during that. That's a very good and perfect example for organizational resilience. Everybody, every volunteer, whatever that needed to be done to start off with that Zoom session, just they geared up and then they took off. And not only just in Joburg, in many other places. I'm aware of that center. That's why I just gave an example. I'm sure that is what happened in Durban Center and many other places too. So that's a perfect example for organizational resilience. And I remember even I see Dr. Bihari Ram, when I was speaking to Dr. Sushil Bihari Ram, that is what she said. They all learned how to even post it on the YouTube, and all the lectures were posted on YouTube, and the devotees were encouraged to use to watch the YouTube lectures and learn. So at an organization level, so especially during COVID times, we can understand how as an organization, so much resilience was built up. And yes, I'm just taking an example of our own center, But this is the same thing that happened, whether you see at educational institutions, whether at the school level, college level, or even companies for that matter. And we think they were just learning to adjust. It's not about adjusting. When we keep adjusting, we will never be resilient. That does not mean we should not adjust. We should always think out of the box and keep seeing what is it that we can do better, what is it that we can do more. Adjusting is just at the survival level, being in the survival mode. Rather than adjusting and adapting, it is about building up resilience so that we can be even better than before. So that if that is one type of classification of resilience, we can look at resilience from a different angle, different way of classifying resilience: psychological resilience, emotional resilience, physical resilience, and spiritual resilience. There's very slight difference between psychological and emotional resilience, but we can just right now combine it into one and understand. I still remember our Swamiji when he did Bhagavad Gita lectures. This right from the second chapter, he kept saying that we need to build our emotional strength. So whatever we learn, that should be put into practice. That is when the mind becomes equanimous and we build emotional strength. Otherwise, it remains at just knowledge level, intellectual knowledge level. And that is what Krishna helped Arjuna to convert all that intellectual knowledge into emotional strength by the end of Bhagavad Gita. So we can keep that at the back of our mind when we talk about this emotional and psychological resilience. And of course, physical resilience, especially for certain people, that becomes a major factor. And whichever resilience we are working towards, they're all interconnected. We can take up either one or many, but they're all interconnected. And we get both psychological resilience, physical and spiritual to a great extent. What might affect as we get older, if we don't work towards it in an active manner, is the physical resilience. But everything else, as we get older, it gets better and better. So if you combine these two, psychological, one type of classification and the second type of classification, we're going to focus first on the rest of the series on individual resilience, and also individual resilience leading to community resilience, community or even family resilience. But let it start at the family level and community level in the devotee care group program, and later on leading to organization level. So keep this in the back of your mind as we go along in the next few series. So from individual resilience to family resilience to community, leading to organizational resilience. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. And we're going to bring confluence of science and spirituality as we go along. Because many times, most of the positive psychology principles are so akin to what is said in Vedanta. Many a times I have to actually tell people this is from the scientific angle, positive psychology angle. I'm not talking from the Vedantic perspective because it is so akin to that. So anyway, we're going to try and see how we can bring both science and spirituality together as we go along. And these are the broad general lines about how do we bring confluence of science and spirituality. First and foremost is to have faith in oneself. Because as Swami Vivekananda has said, earlier definition of an atheist is one Atheist is one who does not believe in God, believe in religion, believe in God. But the new definition of an atheist is, he says, I'm paraphrasing, of course, not having faith in oneself. You can label them as atheists, which is at a very high Vedantic perspective. If you actually have faith in God, that has to translate to, or because of having faith in oneself, can have faith in God, or having faith in God, you can have, that should translate to having faith in oneself. So we're going to see how do we build up that faith in oneself and manifesting goodness both in self and in others. Again, this is Swami Vivekananda's take, and this is also nothing but what is said in positive psychology principle, but the terminologies might be different in different times, but manifesting goodness in oneself and also help manifest goodness in others. That's exactly what is happening in all our centers. Whichever center you take, not just in South Africa, in Ramakrishna Matan Mission, and this is what we see. How do we manifest the goodness in ourselves first, and then help others to manifest that goodness, and to understand the significance and importance of interconnectedness of all things, of all beings, to understand the significance and importance of that, and also to understand the significance of interdependence, that we usually think being independent is the highest order, but whether we know it or not, we are interdependent on each other. I'm not talking about codependency. That's a different angle. That's a different thing altogether. Being interdependent is figuring out what is one's strength and figuring out somebody else's strength, and then trying to see how we can work together, building upon strengths. And that is how we can also try and overcome many of the weaknesses when we try and work in a team, building upon the strengths of individual people. So the importance and significance of interdependence and interconnectedness, of course, they are closely related to each other, and that is what it is all about. So this is where we're going to look into having faith in oneself and building up that faith more and more. And as we build faith in ourselves, that is where we are manifesting goodness in ourselves, and that also helps in manifesting the goodness in others, and the importance and significance of interconnectedness and interdependence. All of this makes sense when we truly figure out the meaning and purpose of life. This is what we have been talking about in the past two sessions, figuring out the meaning and purpose of life. And we have said, whether you look at it from a scientific angle or from a spiritual angle, from a scientific angle, whether we know it or not, all human beings are born to evolve into better human beings. So that common meaning and purpose of life is what, from a scriptural perspective, what our master says, the purpose of human life, the goal of human life is God realization, he says, right? Which is nothing but scientific way of saying to evolve ourselves is the goal and purpose of human life. It's all one and the same. Because when we go into the Vedantic perspective, God realization and self-realization, there is no difference between the two. So with this, we're going to get into domains of building resilience from the next session. But I think I'm going to stop here. Unless we have time, I can go over a few more slides, but I was thinking of stopping here. Is that a good time, or do you have a few more minutes?
I've got 5 minutes on my side.
Okay. Okay, then let me go through a couple more slides that will lay the foundation for understanding these domains of building resilience. So, what are the domains of building resilience? It is really simple. I'm not going to say anything extra or new, but we're going to look at all of this from different angles as we go along in the next few sessions. Building up resilience is so simple, but it is not easy. This is the catch. It is simple. If you just take care of a couple of things, we can do that. And I'm not going to give you anything extra or more. But it is not easy because we keep falling short of that sometime or other. So then what is the solution? Before we go into how do we build up resilience with such a simple thing, the first and foremost is to change our belief system in a couple of ways. Again, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change, right? First of all, to see and believe, totally believe that building resilience is far better than trying to bounce back to the previous ways. We have not thought about it this way. Just this thought that building resilience is far better than what it was before, that belief system has to change. And again, which is nothing but changing our way of looking at anything in life. If we change the way we look at things in life, whatever we are looking at, that will change. I'm talking in a most general manner, but these statements, this particular statement, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. You plug it into anything that is going on in your life, and then you will be able to see. And I have given this already, and I'm going to repeat. What is that? Just one thing. How do we change the way we look at things? It could be anything under the sun. All we need to do is to ask, do I need to just go through this challenge, being in the survival mode, or do I want to evolve through this challenge and become more resilient and then evolve into a better human being? Just asking that simple question, do I want to survive through this difficult situation, or do I have to evolve through this situation? That is enough. If we change our belief system based on this question, sometimes we may not be ready to evolve. We just have to just adapt and adjust, quote unquote, in the survival mode. Nothing wrong, but we need to be aware of that. As long as we are aware that at this time, let me just adjust and be in the survival mode and get through this, I will think about evolving or building resilience through that next challenge of mine. But that has to come from within, from us. As long as we know we have chosen to be in the survival mode, that is fine. But many a times what happens is we take the path of least resistance to be in the quote unquote survival mode. Any example that you take, throw me the most difficult example that you can think of, either for yourself or the people that are around you. I can answer how to look at based on this particular question. So with this, changing our belief system that whatever happens at the body level has an effect on the mind, and whatever happens at the level of mind has an effect on the body. In other words, close connection between body and mind. And we usually forget one more thing. It's not just about understanding. We understand that close connection between body and mind, but also about our behavior, our actions, our habits. So there is a very close connection between our body, mind, and our habits, body, mind, and our actions, body, mind, and our behavior. Understanding this and changing that belief system is the end all. And with this, I'm going to stop. The domains of building resilience is so simple, as I said, but not easy. If you just eat nutritious food, and even if you're eating junk food, knowing that you're eating junk food, and then you're going to keep it under control, because we cannot stop overnight. It is almost impossible. But making sure that we eat well, sleep well, and move around, the physical activity is extremely important. This is at a very meta level I'm talking about, but we're going to go deeper into what is this that prevents us to be using these domains and to build up resilience. So that we will take it up in the next session. Again, I am going to leave you with this. If we change the belief system first, and changing our action, changing our behavior, changing our habits can become easier. But without changing the belief system, it is possible. We can do it, and it will help us. Without changing that belief system, no amount of effort will help us. Sometime or other, we're going to fall short of that. So whatever we want to change, not just building up resilience, anything in life, first the belief system has to change. Of course, I knew all along, but I also now know, based on the recent advances in neuroscience research, it is possible to change our life by changing our mind. It's not just changing our mind, but also changing our mind in a particular way over a period of time, which changes the very structure and function of the brain itself, is what is going to lead us to change in our lives. In the same token, whatever challenge that comes into our lives, I hope, wish, and pray that we are going to look at those challenges from a totally different perspective, so that rather than just overcoming challenges, we are going to focus on how do we build resilience. Am I better than before? As I said, one thing that if we can think about, other than that question, do I want to survive or evolve? Just keep mirror as an example. Keep looking at the mirror and say, am I better than yesterday? Am I better than when I was faced with this challenge? Even while going through the challenge, keeping this awareness in mind will help us to see, I want the mirror to be my competition. Am I better than before? So then we will never ask the question, why is this happening to me? And the next question we know, or we all know, rather than asking, why me? Why not me? No, there is one more. Not just why me. That is not, that will not, we will never get the right answer. Even for why not me, we may not. So we can make it another question and say, try me. Now I know I'm going to build resilience with anything and everything that the challenges that I'm facing. So try me will be our mantra whenever we face challenges in our lives. So with this, what is it that prevents us to be truly resilient? Even knowing all of this, we fall short of being resilient, because this has to become second nature. And And what prevents us to change our own belief system now? That belief system has to change, right? That we will take up in the next session.